United States Senate Candidate Matthew Heines and his wife crash the Irrigation Festival in Sequim, Washington. Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. In case you weren't following the controversy last week, I, a United States Senate candidate, was not allowed to participate in my own hometown parade after a myriad of excuses were given, such as only incumbents or people in office are allowed to participate. Well, what is the next option available when this happens? Crash it. And so crash it my wife and I did. We went to Sequim, and the first thing we did was we found the Irrigation Festival pageant beauties, and we got this nice picture with them. And then we ventured on down the street and got some more pictures with lovely ladies from all over the town. And we also found these colorful characters, so we got a picture with them. And then things got a little bit crazy and really started buzzing. So let's take a look. Are you buzzing, Bee? Are you catching a buzz?
Oh my God.
Is this your honey?
She is.
Really? Are you a wasp?
He is, I guess.
The following is an announcement paid for by the Friends of Matthew Heines for the United States Senate. Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Heines, and I'm running for the 1st Congressional Senate seat in Washington State. I'd like to talk to you guys for a few minutes about my upbringing because everybody wants to know about your values as a political candidate. Well, my values are very simple. They came from this church here. This is actually the Sequim Latter-day Saint Church in Sequim, Washington. And I was the first person ever baptized in this building back in February of 1973. So this was where I learned about things like service to other people, like how leaders are dedicated to helping the people that they lead and not vice versa. This is where I learned about the teachings of Jesus. And this is where I learned about how kindness and helpfulness is always better than anger and vengeance. Now, I'm certainly no saint, but as I went through life, I was always able to take the lessons that I learned here in this church as a young child. And believe it or not, when I was a young tyke, this building was built in about 1972 and was completed in 1973. And as a little tyke, I used to play football right here in this yard with my friends. So this is where I got my initial philosophical background, and it would be added to later. But in a small town like Sequim, where there was very little going on, there were only two things really happening in the town: church and state. Behind me is Sequim High School, and it is from here where I graduated many, many years ago, and it was from here I learned some more important things about life. Some of the things that I learned here at this school were from my teachers, and my teachers were very special people, and they were very dedicated individuals. Now today, when we have these schools are all political backgrounds for people's different agenda, in my day they taught things like self-reliance. They taught things about being healthy, about caring for others, and about there was always something that you could do to contribute. Now, coming from this small town, who would think that anybody could amount to anything from here? But from this high school, we have had the first West Point female graduate. We have had many lawyers, doctors, many writers like myself. So many people have come from this high school. It's just amazing that have contributed so much to society. And what is different about this high school and about this little town? Well, I'd like to show you a couple things, but before I do, I'd like to show you my favorite place here in this school was where I learned the most. And it wasn't so much from my teachers, it was from that library right over there. And from that library, I was able to access books about places around the world. And from those books, I could learn about places I wanted to go, things I wanted to do. And I learned about service to my country. And I learned about how it was possible for people to grow up from meager circumstances and grow up to do great things. And so I said from those early beginnings, well, maybe that's what I'm going to do. So let's go and take it a couple of my other teachers. And this might be a little bit unusual, but I think it's something you need to understand Matthew Heines. We're standing now in the shadow of the Olympic Mountains, which you can see behind me. Now, when I was growing up, from the time I was a very little child, these mountains presented something of a mystery and an enigma because they were so dark and mysterious, and they just presented something like a big challenge that was always looming over you. And so as a child, when you're able to see these mountains every day and the beauty of the Northwest and how it had been so untouched, and you're able to see how small you are compared to nature, it's something that really strives you or encourages you to try for new and greater things, to be as great as the mountains behind you. So when I was growing up, these were some of the biggest influences, as much as a church and as much as a school. The mountains that I grew up with in the Olympic Peninsula were a biggest part of me as just about anybody I knew or anything that I ever learned in a school or in a textbook. So another nice thing about growing up here was always having the access to places like this. This is Port Williams, just off the beaten path of Sequim, and as you can see, across the water you have Mount Baker, and as a kid this just opens up the whole world to you, a whole lot of possibilities about what's actually out there in the world. So from this little corner of the Pacific Northwest, I was able to, as a young man, look at this place and look at places like this and say there's a whole world out there, and it really inspires a person to want to see what's out there, to taste and to touch and to do as many things as possible. And so it was from this launching point that I started my journey many, many years ago that ended up here with me asking you to vote for me for the United States Senate. So I'm Matthew Heines, and I'm running for the 1st Congressional District. I hope you'll consider voting for me and voting for America. Thanks for your time.
Now.
1, 2, Maria Cantwell, you're fired. The previous message was a paid announcement by the Elect Matthew Heines to the United States Senate Committee and Save America.